We've gotten quite a few questions on your view of the Modi government's performance. I know you mentioned a couple of things in your speech: demonetization, polarization, violence. What are the 2 or 3 key things that you wish they could improve on? And maybe the second part, what are 1 or 2 things that you think the government's actually doing well?
See, I'm an opposition leader, but Mr. Modi is also my Prime Minister. Mr. Modi has certain skills. He's a very good communicator, probably much better than me. He understands how to give a message to 3 or 4 different groups in a crowd. So his messaging ability is very subtle and very effective. What I sense, and this is something that actually would be very good if it happened. What I sense is that he doesn't converse with the people he works with. I mean, even members of parliament of the BJP come to me and tell me that you know, sunte nahi. Yeah.
No. Please. No. Please.
This is not free speech if you're controlling what you ask.
I'll tell you what, I'll have a conversation with you after this. After that, you can share it with them, but I'll happily have a conversation.
Please go ahead.
Carry on.
What carry on? Where were we? You were talking about the Modi government's performance.
So one thing that I think would be good is if he would speak to the people who work with him. I mean, there's a lot of information that the opposition, for example, has. And he's not really interested in that input. So that's one aspect of it. On what they've done well, what I like the concept of Make in India. But the orientation of Make in India is slightly different than what I would do. So the orientation of Make in India is big business, and a lot of it is defense. My orientation of Make in India would be small and medium businesses. See, big businesses in India already have a lot of play. So my thing would be to carve out a space for small and medium businesses and bring in experts like you from Silicon Valley and actually think about taking these small and medium businesses and transforming them, as I said, into global companies. So I do agree with the idea of Make in India. I like it. Orientation is slightly different. Swachh Bharat is something that Mr. Modi likes. The idea of hygiene, I think it's a good one. I don't think it's a bad one. And I think the sort of stuff that they're doing on open defecation and stuff like that, I think that's not a bad thing. I think on foreign policy, our basic design was have relationships with people around us. So we, of course, have a solid relationship with the United States that's only going to get better. And we accept that India and the United States are going to get closer. But we had a relationship with Russia. We had a certain relationship with Iran. So that balance. For example, Russia today is selling arms to Pakistan. It's not in our interest. They've never done it before. I mean, there are reports that the Russians are dealing with the Taliban. Unimaginable 10, 15 years ago. So, whereas I completely agree with their positioning as far as the US is concerned, I think they're making India vulnerable. Because if you look at Nepal, the Chinese are in there. If you look at Burma, the Chinese are there. If you look at Sri Lanka, the Chinese are there. If you look at Maldives, the Chinese are there. And in a lot of these places, these are tactical mistakes. Nepal was a tactical mistake. You know, the blockade, there's a tactical mistake. You basically lost Nepal because you made a tactical mistake. So my disagreement in the basic direction, my agreement in the basic direction, I agree. Friendship with the United States, close bond with the United States. But don't isolate India because it gets dangerous.
Last question. You should ask the last question. And